evening. This is News.Ph, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Keeping devotion, keeping a vow, religiosity, spirituality, fanaticism, whatever it can be called, tomorrow's Black Nazarene Procession will hold an entire city hostage, not to mention the nation. That's what we'll talk about with our guest tonight, Dr. Mike Asis from the Theology Department, or more correctly, the chairman of the Theology Department of the Ateneo de Manila University, Dr. Nestor Castro, the chairman also of the Cultural Anthropology Department of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. On the phone, we're going to be joined by Father Rick Valencia Jr. of the St. John the Baptist Church. And we will be joined here in the studio in a little while by Chief Inspector Erwin Margarejo. He is the Community Relations Officer of the Manila Police District, which of course has jurisdiction over the Quiapo Church area and the entire procession area. Well, let's talk about the event first. I wanted to speak first to Father Rick Valencia, who's joining us by telephone. Father Rick, are you there?
Yeah. Good evening and to our listeners.
Yes, good evening, Father. In spite of the fact that you might sound like a broken record, can you tell us what are we going to expect tomorrow?
Can you repeat
Father
the
Rick?
question?
I
I
think
did not
we
hear
have a
the
little bit of
question.
a problem there, but I needed to ask Father Rick Valencia, of course, what we can expect tomorrow, and also Major Margarejo in terms of what we can expect when it comes to the security situation. After all, this is going to be a big crowd. But we're going to go back to that in a little while, skip that for a while, and go to our two guests who are here now. Dr. Mike Asis, or Mike, and Professor Nestor Castro. Are any of you a devotee of the Black Nazarene? Just checking. Professor Nestor?
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. And Mike?
No, I'm not.
No.
I pray the rosary though.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any devotions of any sort to any other?
Devotion to my career.
Okay.
But I do attend the procession of the Black Nazarene, mainly for academic reasons, to understand the cultural practice.
Okay. When you say I attend, so you've been attending that every year?
Not really every year, if my schedule allows it. Mainly I watch as a bystander.
Okay. So where do you position like, for example, last year you were there?
No, not last year. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I was by the Quiapo Bridge.
By the Quiapo Bridge. So watching, of course, as an
Yes,
observer,
watching
and
as an
a
observer.
professor, as a scholar.
Now in case I'm not able to go there to watch it directly, I watch, of course, the television.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there is a reason, of course, why you do that. Because
Yes, because this is one of the areas that we study, Filipino religiosity, folk Christianity as practice in the Philippines.
Interesting, folk Christianity. We'll go back to that in a little while. But do you know of relatives or friends of yours who are devotees of the Black Nazarene, Mike? Meron ka bang kilala na ganon?
I don't recall any relatives, although every now and then I see celebrities over television are very devoted, like Nori De Castro of ABS-CBN.
Okay.
Of course, I'm very devoted to my wife also.
I like that. Sip-sip ka talaga kay Tintin. No? Sorry, we're friends kasi. Mike and Tintin Asis are our friends. But anyway, okay. That's beside the point. Okay. So, pero ikaw naman, Professor Nestor, you have friends or relatives who are devotees?
I have neighbors. I come from Pasig, and we have neighbors who regularly attend the translation, the procession to the Quiapo Church.
Okay. Do they have miracle stories that they've told you?
Not that I know of. What they tell me is that it's a devotion that has been passed over to them by their parents and by their grandparents. So it's something that they do because they have been devoted to the Nazarene.
Okay. So it's really parang, for some of them, family tradition.
Yes.
Okay, which is another very strong Filipino characteristic,
Very much.
no? Na kapag anything, no? Anything that is
Yes,
passed on to you,
everything
do
that
it.
we do is familial, so even religiosity, so that's why this spirit of the family praying together is very strong, a message for Filipinos, because they do this as members of the same family, or even as barkada going to church.
But itong mga neighbors mo, Professor Nestor, do they tell you that their lives, for example, have changed for the better, or
Sorry, no. They have not told me anything about it. They said they do it blindly, whether their lives have changed or not.
Okay, so it's parang blind devotion,
Yes.
and because minana ho namin ito. Period.
Yes,
Ganon.
minana, and at the same time, they believe in it.
They believe in it. Okay. And they say they are doing all of this because, like you said,
It's their belief of how they should practice their religion. I'm not a theologian, so I'm not in a position to question whether that's correct or not. But this is their perception that to be a good Christian, they have to follow what Christ did.
Okay. To be a good Christian, they have to follow what Christ did. This is the way
Including
they
the
practice,
suffering of Christ.
including the suffering. And again, what comes to mind, Holy Week rituals.
Yes.
Also, we Filipinos seem to love to make literal translations. Di ba, Mike, of our faith? Tama ba yun?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, because the Christian faith is a very incarnational faith. Parang
Incarnational.
Incarnational. The narrative of the Christian faith is about a God who takes the form of a human person, born within a certain cultural milieu, born in a certain town, speaking a particular language with a certain predisposition. So our language is very embodied, as it were. It's very, to use a more religious term or theological, it's more sacramental. So God reveals through signs, through gestures, through words, through rituals.
Okay.
And this devotion precisely is very appealing to the Filipinos because, for one, it is a devotion to the crucified Christ.
Yes.
Okay.
Which many Filipinos associate
identify
with, precisely
ourselves
because
with,
of the terrible ordeals and sufferings throughout the centuries that we've gone through, as a people, of political oppression, calamities, and so on,
being colonized, World War I, World War II,
economic
etc.
dislocation, and so on, and all the terrible ordeals we had to go through as a people.
And then most recently, Yolanda.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Predisposed
parang
us.
all the bad things happen to us, and we suffer all the time, and this is why we identify with the suffering.
The most
Christ.
popular image of God, really, for the Filipinos is the crucified. Although there are two predominant images of God in Filipino Catholic culture. It's the Santo Niño and the Nazareno. Okay, but it's the Nazareno, really, which is preeminently the Filipino image of Christ.
Okay, so it's also a combination of, you have these people, like as Professor Nestor was saying, mga neighbors niya who minana lang nila sa mga magulang, sa mga lolo't lola nila, and then you have this feeling of identifying with a suffering Christ. That's what makes it this is the only devotion
that makes
we
it
see
meaningful.
that is the most.
Okay, that makes it a meaningful devotion for most Filipinos. So the Filipinos, rich or poor, really inherited their faith, from their ancestors, from their parents. Although and even the rich, their God really is also either the Santo Niño or the crucified God, although expressed perhaps in more sophisticated ways.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, although there are, of course, we see professionals every now and then attending such mass devotions. The more educated perhaps have their own unique way of expressing their faith. Perhaps via the more traditional, conventional ways of sacramental worship.
Yeah. Well, sacramental worship rituals, like you said, so the Mass,
the Mass, the
Holy
sacraments,
Communion,
and so on.
confirmation, baptism,
The official
etc.
worship rituals of the church.
Although we do have this tendency as a people, now once we go to Mass daily, attend Mass on holy days of obligation, do all of these rituals, then we consider ourselves good Catholics.
Yeah, or at least faithful Catholics. But whether, as Professor said, whether these rituals really impact your lives and change you, that's another thing.
Yes.
So whether rich or poor, the witness of the faith really, the challenge of the faith is to to really live it out, no, in
Yeah.
your daily life, whether you are rich or poor, devoted to to the Black Nazarene, or a professional, hearing mass regularly.
Yeah. Oo. In other words, do I become a
Also,
better person
yeah.
because of my devotion to the Black Nazarene? Nagiging mas mabuti ba akong tao dahil sa devotion ko sa Black Nazarene, or I'm just the same, which is the challenge. But anyway, okay. We'll talk to Father Rick Valencia. He's on the phone now. Father Rick, good evening. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, Father Rick. Well, can you tell us what we can expect tomorrow?
The expectation?
Father Rick?
Lahat ng aming preparation is to expect the best and the safety and security ng lahat ng mga deboto at mga mamamasan na sumasali sa procession at sa kapistahan.
Okay, so safety and security. Father, when I asked you the question about what can we expect tomorrow, I'm sure this is the question that you get asked, or the other those others who are involved in preparations for the Black Nazarene Processional. You get this. You get asked this question every year. Do you find that you are giving the same answers every year, also?
Well, I think there is no other question answer that should be answered in the same question because yan naman lang ang tinatanong kaya't ang expectation namin ay talagang ito maging isang relihiyosong pagdiriwang na walang masaktan.
Okay. A few days ago, Father, there was this talk about the devotees may force the procession to pass, is it the MacArthur Bridge or the Jones Bridge instead of this other bridge? Merong mga ganong mga usap-usapan. Bakit po merong mga ganon? Okay.
Dito sa pamunuan ng Simbahan ng Quiapo, yung mga leaders na konektado sa amin ay pinulong naman namin at pinagpayuhan at narinig naman nila yung mungkahi ng ating pamahalaan. Kaya't ang lahat naman sila noon, mga presenteng mga leader ay agree naman doon sa mungkahi ng gobyerno dahil alam naman nilang ito para sa kanilang kapakanan.
Okay. You said earlier that your main concern is safety and security. You don't see any possible untoward incidents happening?
We are the preparation for the Feast of the Black Nazarene started around 6 months ago with all the coordination that we did with government agencies that are involved in the celebration, like the Department of Health, rescue teams, the help of the national and local agencies.
Father Rick, I'm sure the challenge for the Catholic Church is how you can help deepen Filipinos' faith, no, Catholic faith. This is, I'm sure you don't want this to just be a ritual or even, opium, for lack of a better term, no? Is that something that you are concerned about?
The main concern that we have also is that they may be able to enter into the celebration really in the spirit of piety and love for God and neighbor. So it's not to deepen their faith and to understand that God works in our life, not only in the expression that the devotion are expressing to us.
Deepen their faith and to come out of this better persons, I suppose. Kasi hindi naman
Yes.
pwedeng deboto ka tapos babalik lang sa mga dating gawa, yung
Yes.
mga ganun, ano? Siguro naman, Father, no? Am I?
There are many devotees that also witnesses that even if they've been living life not according to the faith before, because of their devotion, slowly they were able to change, and for them that's one of the miracles that happened when there are moral change in the person.
Moral change. you've witnessed
Yes.
these changes, these transformations.
Yes. These are
Yes.
the testimonies that I hear from people that I'm able to talk with regarding the devotion.
That's good to hear. But do you hear also of those who do not change also?
Well, there are also cases like that. That's why every year we always remind people that when with regards to their celebration, their expression should be lived in their life.
Okay. Final words from you, Father, before we let you go. I understand you're
Yeah.
very busy.
Yes, I think the Filipino people really relate to the image of the Black Nazarene. I would like just to clarify a little regarding the impression that we Filipinos are very much attracted to the suffering Christ. In fact, the image of the Nazarene radiates more of a person who was not crushed by suffering, but a person who is victorious in carrying his suffering and victorious over his death. So this is an image that gives the Filipinos hope. Because if you see the statue of the Black Nazarene, it's not a person who is falling down, but it's a person who is getting up.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Father Rick Valencia Jr. of the St. John the Baptist Church. Thank you, Father, for joining us. Let's go now first to Dave De Castro. He's reporting live from the Quirino Grandstand. Dave? He's reporting live from the Quirino.
Maligayang kapistahan po, galing po sa Quiapo Church, Minor Basilica.
Yes, Pia, the healing mass just ended moments ago, and inspirational talks are currently taking place here at the Quirino Grandstand in Manila. Speaking of inspiration, I have 3 guests with me right now who have their own stories to share as to how the Black Nazarene continues to inspire them. First off is Mr. Jojo Nana, who is founder of a religious group, Hizonian. And I would just like to ask Mr. Nana, Tatay, gaano na po kayo katagal na deboto ng Itim na Nazareno at ano po yung nag-udyok sa kanila para maging deboto?
39 years na ako dito. Ang nagudyok sa akin, bali ang tatay ko kasi minahanapan ng tatay ko ang pagpasan sa Itim na Nazareno.
Magandang araw po mga kapatid.
Nung araw pa sa mga ninuno niya.
Ng Nazareno ngayong taon.
Tsaka lahat ng hiniling ko sa kanya, pinagkaloob sa akin.
Ang buong Nazareno,
Lahat.
nakatiwala.
Kasi ng anak ko, normal. Yun ang hiningi ko.
Sumasaksi.
Lord, bigyan mo ako ng normal na anak.
Na tayo ay nagpapaw.
Sa'yo na ako. Kaya hanggang ngayon, nandito kami.
Ilan na po anak natin?
4.
At ito'y nakikita.
Salamat po. I also have with me here is Nanay Concordia or Suha, who started her devotion to the Black Nazarene in 2007 after an answered prayer. Nanay, pakwento naman po, ano po yung mirakulo na binigay sa atin ng Itim na Nazareno?
Ako po 7 taon na po nagsisimba sa simbahan ng Mahal Nazareno. At saka hinihiling ko po sa kanya ang anak ko sana po maka-abroad kasi balik kayo mag-abroad. Sawa naman ng Mahal Nazareno ibinigaya po. 2 rin po siya, nakapasa rin po ng board exam yung anak kong teacher. Ngayong taon na ito po. Sa Mahal Nazareno, maraming salamat.
Thank you for that, Nanay. Also with us here is a 3rd guest, Mr. Ramil Romamay, who has been devoted to the Black Nazarene for 13 years now. Tatay, pakwento naman po, ano po yung mirakulo na binigay sa atin ng Itim na Nazareno?
Simula nung sumasama ako sa deboto na to, simula nung namamanata ako, medyo nakaiwas ako ng mga sa pagbarkada. Tsaka medyo gumaling yung asawa ko sa panata ko na to.
Sir, bukas po ang prosesyon. Sasama ho ba tayo sa prosesyon?
Opo. Parati po ako yan sumasalang.
Bakit po patuloy tayo sumasama?
Panata ko na po yan sa Nazareno. Taon-taon po yan.
And there we have it, Pia, 3 devotees who have been continuously inspired by the Black Nazarene, and may their stories also inspire us as well. Back to you, Pia.
Thank you, Dave De Castro. He is reporting from the Quirino Grandstand. Of course, very interesting replies or responses from the devotees that he was speaking to. Joining us now is Chief Inspector Erwin Margarejo.
Good evening, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay,
That's correct.
Community Relations Officer, the Manila Police District. Major Magarejo, in terms of security, is everything set for tomorrow?
Well, everything is in place now. And right now, the volume of the people going to Quiapo and Quirino Grandstand is slowly increasing. And we are deploying our security personnel, and we are preparing and we are ready for tomorrow's Feast of the Black Nazarene.
Crowds, after all, Major Magarejo, no, pose security threat because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yes,
right?
usually or regularly we are doing this security deployment. And you know that this is a multitasking commitment to the devotees of the Black Nazarene. And aside from the PNP personnel, we have different law enforcement agency that will help us, like the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine Coast Guard, and all other non-government organizations. And tomorrow, 7 o'clock, that will be the start of translasyon, and we hope and pray that the celebration of the Feast of Black Nazarene will be successful.
Well, the police don't only attend to security situations like this, no, in Black Nazarene Procession. Siyempre, marami pang ibang mga nangyayari. So, can you tell us very briefly lang po? Diba, merong parang crowd, the psychology of a crowd. Diba? What kind of scenarios are possible when you have a crowd as big as this, where there is a lot of emotion, fanaticism even, devotion, etc.?
Well, you know, ma'am, culturally speaking, the celebration of the Feast of Black Nazarene, normally it requires physical conditioning. You know naman na mostly yung mga mamamanata po, they want to hold on the rope.
The rope, yeah.
And pero hindi po yun nakukuha sa sa pakikipagsiksikan. Well, the celebration of the Feast Nazarene, if we have a strong faith in our God or one God, nasa puso po yun.
You're not a devotee?
I'm not a devotee pa.
Okay. All right. But you do have friends, relatives, neighbors?
Well, I have so many friends and relatives na magpupunta po tomorrow, and we give them the safety tips for the celebration tomorrow.
Like what?
Like, for example, we do not recommend bringing children, elderly. You have to bring, of course, your basic medicine kit because we cannot predict the weather tomorrow. Pwede pong mainit, pwede pong mas mainit, pwede pong makulimlim. So, importante po yung basic medicine kit. And of course, drinking water and snack, very important also. And we have to bring just enough cash para hindi rin po tayo mabiktima dahil a lot of opportunists will, of course, sasamantalahin po yung celebration ng Feast of Black Nazarene. Like for example, pickpockets, last. Kaya last bag,
yung
cellphone also, and
Tablets.
try to avoid, of course.
Baka naman may magdala pa ng iPad doon. Yung cellphone signals, hindi naman po i-dyan.
Wala po tayong
walang
ngayon.
ganong,
So, wala po tayo.
not like last, I'm sorry, not like
last
other year.
Not like last year.
Not like last year. Okay. Pero sabi nyo kanina, dapat siguro hindi na dapat magdala ng mga bata, mga matatanda. Pero meron pa rin mga nagdadala ng bata.
Opo. Alam
Bakit
po
po kaya?
naman po natin because there are lots of stories behind the sacrifices. Meron pong mga istorya na napagaling po yung kanilang mga anak. So that is their yung kanilang panata na every year they will brought their children doon po sa procession or translasyon or the celebration of the Feast of Black Nazarene. So yun po yung mga possible reason.
And they believe that the Lord wants them to bring their children.
Possible reason.
And put them in danger.
Kaya po we are giving them the safety tips na we are not recommending it. Na magdala po tayo, lalo na po yung mga nagdadalang tao, elderlies. And of course, also, we are also encouraging to bring personal identification cards para in any case of emergency, we can contact their relatives. And we are also encouraging not to bring pointed materials or bladed materials for the purpose that they may injure themselves or yung kanilang or iba pang mga mamamanata po.
Okay.
So those are the safety tips na binigay po ng Manila Police District for tomorrow's celebration.
I hope people will follow them. We'll have to take a short break. News.Ph will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News.Ph on the Solar News Channel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. We're talking about tomorrow's Black Nazarene Procession. Our guests, Police Chief Inspector Erwin Margarejo of the Manila Police District, Dr. Nestor Castro, and Dr. Mike Asis. Okay, Major Margarejo, meron pong kaninang report about this box that was found. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact location. It was a report by George Cahiles earlier. A box that contained body parts. Meron ba kayong?
Well, so far, wala pa po ako natatanggap sa aking office regarding the report. Pero kanina, early morning, meron po kaming natanggap na report about an elderly woman na apparently nabagsakan daw siya ng barrier. But upon verification, barrier po, yung metal barrier na nakaharang po sa Quirino Grandstand. But apparently, upon verification, nalaman po namin na yung elderly woman is a jogger, nagja-jog po, at without balance lang po siya.
Okay. Kanina, ang sabi po ninyo, Major, is that you have all these tips, no? Wag magdala ng bata, matatanda, etc. What is the PNP going to do if they see devotees who do bring their children and who do bring elderly?
Well,
can you do
just
anything,
like what
or?
I've said before, there are lots of stories about success stories about yung napagaling po yung kanilang mga anak. So these safety tips encourages people na wag na po nilang dalhin yung kanilang mga anak dahil po yearly naman nakikita naman po nila that the celebration of the Feast of the Black Nazarene it requires physical strength na mostly the devotees, yung mga mamamanata, they want to go to the rope dahil gusto nilang matupad yung kanilang mga kahilingan, even a touch of their hands doon sa rope. At yung mga bata naman, ang panata po ng mga magulang nila, pag napagaling, yearly dadalhin din po sa procession ng Black Nazarene. So, as early
Pero
as 1 week before.
sino gumagawa ng panata na yun? Sila din, ano?
Sila din po, yung mga
they
magulang
think
usually.
na yun ang gusto ng Diyos.
Napakarami pong success stories and na natunghayan po natin tungkol po sa the miracle that was given by the Black Nazarene to those people.
Yeah. So, but you can't do anything about it,
Well,
the PNP, because you're giving safety tips, but merong mga hindi susunod.
Pag makita
meron
po
kayong
natin
nakitang
yun,
mga bata,
ano po natin, we will discourage them na wag pong pumunta mismo dun po sa gitna. Kasi baka po sila ay maaksidente.
Professor Renato, so why do people still bring their children, the elderly?
As Chief Margarejo mentioned, so it's their belief, and there are these stories, testimonies that there are miracles that have happened in the past. Of course, we're not there to confirm it or validate it, but these stories go around, and it convinces people to do it because it gives them hope to their problems, to the conditions that they want to overcome.
Okay, Mike, ganun din ba?
Yeah, especially for especially for the marginalized, no, the poor, the marginalized. They have nothing else to hold on to, no, except the faith, no, the faith, the hope that things could be better. So this is an opportunity for them to receive a miracle, or for them to pray that God grant a particular blessing or favor in terms of economic, economic rewards or some kind of medical miracles and so on. So the poor hold on to. So this is their very specific way of encountering, encountering God. However much it has been criticized for being much too superstitious or ritualistic. But that's the only way that the poor can express their faith in a very meaningful way.
Para bang religion is the opium of the masses in the same way that elections are like safety valves. Can you say that of religion? Parang safety valve din siya? Ganun ba yun?
Well, of course, I'm not a religious person in the sense that I'm a priest or what. But of course, one function of religious belief is that it gives people hope to all their sufferings. So it enables people to survive. If we have the same conditions, for example, in Korea or Japan, probably Filipinos will commit suicide instead. But because of our belief, we hold on and we look at Christ as the symbol of somebody who suffered, but eventually there was redemption. So it gives that function.
Yeah, I think a point that a very important point that is terribly missed by so many people, believers, theologians, and so on, is that the suffering Jesus. If you look at the Jesus of history, the historical Jesus, I mean the Jesus prior Christianity, his suffering really was a consequence of his fight for certain causes.
Yes.
No, I mean hypocrisy, injustice, corruption in the temple, and so on and so forth. This was, in a sense, a consequence of a life he has chosen to live. So suffering, there is not some kind of punishment by God for our sins, but really as a price he had to pay, for fighting for a sense of integrity, in leadership. Even during his time, he was fighting for good governance, actually. Okay, and had paid dearly for it.
Okay. Major Magarejo,
Yes,
tomorrow you will be. Where will you be?
Well,
during
tomorrow I
procession?
will be in the Carino Grandstand for a start, and after that, I have so many series of live interviews in Quiapo.
Yung mga live interviews. That explains why you're here. But this is not the first Black Nazarene procession that you will be witnessing, no?
Yes, this is my 6th time because I've been in the Manila Police District for 6 years.
Okay. So 6 years na.
Apo.
Yung mga sinasabi ni Dr. Mike Asis and Dr. Castro, do you agree also with them? These are scholarly observations.
Well, definitely I agree because I have witnessed some miracles of the Black Nazarene, experience-wise, to my friends, to my relatives, and mostly they were healed. And even the medical corps cannot explain why they were healed. So maybe it's really on your belief. If you really believe on one God, that He can heal you, well, that's it. You are healed.
Walang medical intervention doon
Wala
sa
po.
mga
Wala po.
napagaling. Can you be specific, like yung mga kaibigan mo or yung mga relatives mo who experienced
Well,
miracles?
I have a relatives in Capiz. Most of the time, or every year, she goes here because her daughter was healed. The first diagnosis was leukemia. And after series of novenas in Quiapo, and she was totally healed. And the doctor said that they concluded that it was a miracle. So I believe that there was divine intervention in the healing of the daughter of my relative.
Can you explain that, Mike and Nestor, itong miracles that happened?
Well, it is not without basis, no, even in Scripture. No, if you look at the Gospel, so Jesus really was popular for being a miracle worker during his time, and many accounts attest to the fact that he healed, even raised some people from the dead. And we believe that through the church now, through the power of Christ, through the Spirit, so the same essential healing power is communicated to the church. No? I mean, at least through certain select individuals who have that charism or gift of healing. And we believe that it is being granted or given to certain people, although we can explain why it's not given to everyone. That's why they say probably that's why it's called a gift. No, not everyone gets a gift. Okay, it's given to certain people. As to why, we don't know. It's part of the mystery of life in general, why certain things happen in our lives. But certainly miracles. But what is important to point out is that even in the Gospels, Jesus would always only speak of miracles in relation to faith. People usually get healed only
because they
when
believe.
they believe. Okay, so that is the real miracle. Really, first is the challenge to be able to suspend your disbelief, as it were, and be open to the possibility that the divine could work out wonders in your life.
Oh, when they're before they're healed, they say, "I believe," and then Jesus always says, "Then you are healed."
And for those people who don't get healed, for example, I've gone through many medical adversities. I don't get healed.
Well, that's an understatement. But it's a miracle you're here tonight, Mike. Oh.
I never got a cure, but my wife would always say, "But Mike received healing." Healing.
Yes.
The attitude that it encouraged, that it created in me, the strength, hope, positive outlook, defied the difficult medical condition, is in itself a miracle. A miracle.
Okay. So what we're looking for, it's not just physical healing.
I suppose. Because the great miracle really is the miracle of faith. I mean, for Jesus, the great miracle is not simply physical. The physical is simply a sign, or an invitation to the deeper challenge or miracle of believing in Jesus, or believing. That's the great miracle, really, that Christ is after whenever he works out all these wondrous acts of miraculous nature.
Professor Castro.
Well, I don't believe that the only way to be healed is through the Western medical practice. There are various ways of being healed, including indigenous medicine.
Right.
And I do believe that in the power of faith in healing people.
Okay. And
Are you healed?
I think so. I think so. Okay. Karina, you use the term folk Christianity, and then there are words that come out when we talk about the Black Nazarene. So folk Christianity, religiosity, fanaticism, spirituality. Itong religiosity and spirituality, kanina Mike, diba, you were saying people who think about, who go to rituals, who do the rituals, and think that is already being good Catholics. Itong Black Nazarene, this whole experience, the tomorrow's procession, the pahalik, everything, is it religiosity? Is it spirituality? What is it? Or maybe Major Margareta. Kung ayaw yung dalawa.
Our closet theologian.
I should explain why I said folk Catholicism.
Yeah.
So I would like to differentiate, because many critics would say this is not what the church taught you. The church dogma teaches otherwise. Of course, I really don't know that because I'm not a theologian, but I did study in a Catholic school as well.
What Catholic school?
Pasig Catholic College in mine, from kinder all the way to fourth year high school.
Okay.
But so it's actually a convergence of Philippine culture and Catholicism that came from Spain via Mexico. So it's a confluence of two different belief systems now packaged into
different
a new one.
cultures,
Yes. That's why I wouldn't put a check, yes, this is Catholicism, no, this is not, but it's a totally new phenomenon.
People love to distinguish now between religion, religiosity, and spirituality.
Yeah.
For example, people who claim, who say, oh, I'm not a religious person, I'm not affiliated with a particular religion, but I consider myself spiritual. In other words, I have a sense of the divine, of God, of the transcendent, of the absolute, but I don't go through the usual institutional expressions of
So
religion.
para bang I may not go to mass every day,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that does
but
not make me a bad person. I am a good person.
But I
Parang
pray,
ganon.
I pray to nature, pwede ganun. Mayroon mga ganun creation spirituality who are not associated with the conventional religions. Now, devotions like this naman is an entirely different animal, as it were. No? On the one hand, it is not really a formal official religious expression because it's a devotion. No? It's not really part of the official worship of the church. But on the other hand, it is sanctioned by the church. It is supervised by clerics, church hierarchs, and so on. But on the other hand, it offers something more than what the usual religious institutional expressions offer, or namely, a deeper sense of hope, of God, of healing. Even if parang mechanical yung understanding na if I do this, God siguro will grant this. People might criticize it's a rather childish or infantile way of looking at the faith, but that's how
That is their expression of the faith, of their faith.
that's how they express.
And that is how they experience it. Oo.
Even Jesus himself said, unless you become like little children, okay, you cannot have the kingdom of God. No? Absolute trust. No? That's really the virtue that is, I think, exemplified in devotions such as this. Childlike trust.
Oo, childlike trust.
Yeah. Childlike.
Ask and you shall receive.
Ipinaubay mo lahat sa Diyos.
Oo. Pero yung ask and you shall receive, hindi ba, is it Ignatian spirituality, di ba there is the prayer of supplication,
generosity,
Lord, give me this, Lord, give me that, Lord, please do this for me, Lord. Pero merong prayer of discernment na ibang-iba, di ba? Although, earlier, during Network News, we had one report, I think that was Trisha Terrado's report, and there was one devotee who was saying that if the Lord does not give me this, parang okay din lang sa akin. No? That was a little bit comforting to hear because at first you think, no, all these devotees, if the Lord doesn't give me this, then I will not believe.
Blackmail naman yan. Kahit ako, kung akong Diyos, siguro magagalit din ako. Sobra ka naman, ikaw na nga nakikiusap, iba-blackmail mo pa ako. Pero but even yung supplication, even yung Our Father, di ba? Yung Our Father is the classic prayer. Yung supplication, sa huli na yun. Give us our bread. Sa bandang huli. Pero first is adoration, worship, Our Father who art in heaven. Holy be your name. Di ba? Yung acts, yung adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, supplication.
Yeah.
Yung parang framework ng typical prayer. So yung intention is really in there. And kahit yung supplication must be in view of the greater good. Give us our bread so that hindi lang ako mabusog. Mabusog yung buong community. So I have the strength to do the mission.
Hindi lang ako yung magbe-benefit.
Pero so it's always centered on the kingdom of God. And when you seek the kingdom of God, everything else will be added unto you. So are you healed?
Si Mike, malapit na ako maging healed. Pero yung mga devotees na kilala ninyo, your neighbors, for example, no, Professor Castro, Major Margareo, your relatives, kung hindi naibigay yung hinihiling nila, maniniwala pa sila? What would have happened to their faith?
Well, I think for us Filipinos, we are brought by faith. We have a lots of requests to God. Pero even though kahit na hindi mabigyan yung request natin, sometimes pag hindi na grant, we still have faith. Naniniwala pa rin tayo sa iisang Diyos Kasi we have to think of it as a positive effect on us that God has other purpose kaya hindi binigay yung ating request.
Professor Castro, give us a social cultural
I don't know
answer.
of anyone who, after his or her prayers that were not granted, he or she became angry. Because most Filipinos, they're very patient, matiisin. So they would say, maybe it's not my time yet. Maybe
The Lord has something better
yeah,
for me.
the Lord has something better for me. It will come next year or the next year. So they continue with their devotion.
Parang pagtaya sa loto yan.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Many lose, but at the same time, they
Yeah.
still bet.
Tumaya ka ba sa loto?
Di ba?
Tsaka mostly
Ako,
yan
hindi
yung
ako
panalangin ng mga Pilipino, manalo sa loto.
Biglang from the Black Nazarene to Lotto. Okay, final words na lang ho. Let's begin with Major Margarejo.
Well, just like what I've said before, dun po sa ating mga mamamanata for tomorrow or devotees, sundin lang po natin yung ating safety tips at makakasiguro po tayo na hindi po tayo maaaksidente. There are numerous hotlines na pwede po nating tawagan sa Manila Police District. Ang hotline po namin, 523-3378. Sa Public Information Office po, 524-5288. Dial 117 and PNP text 2920. At kapag dinayan
PNP
po
text
natin,
2920. Okay.
Pag,
Pwede rin
denial po
mag-tweet,
natin.
di ba? You have a Twitter account.
meron po kami
Active ba yung Twitter account nyo?
Active po yun, ma'am.
Nagre-reply naman
Opo.
kaagad.
Real time po, nagre-reply
Real
po
time,
kami, ma'am.
talaga.
Opo.
Sige, testing natin mamaya.
Opo.
Okay.
Sige po, ma'am.
Your Twitter account is at Manila's...
At MPD React.
MPD React. Okay.
MPD React po.
MPD
We also have our
React.
own Facebook account.
Facebook.
MPD React din po.
MPD
At
React.
MPD React.
Okay.
So tomorrow, sana po maging mapayapa yung pagpapakita natin ng malaking pananampalataya sa ating Panginoon. Sinabi ko po kanina, yung ating pong pananampalataya, hindi po yan nakikita sa ating pakikipagsiksikan or sa ating pakikipagbalyahan. Nakikita po yan sa ating puso ng ating Panginoon.
Thank you, Major Margarejo. Professor Castro?
So my take on the Feast of the Black Nazarene comes from being a cultural anthropologist. So I look at it as a cultural phenomenon, as part of Philippine culture. And it's a very powerful expression of Filipino spirituality or religiosity. I'm not too sure now. But it's something that we should respect. We don't have to look down on people who may have religious beliefs that are different from ours. What I'm critical of are some opportunists who grab the opportunity, such as some politicians who show off in their, show their faces in the devotion so that they could get popular to the massa. So let's leave
Mga
it
umeepal.
let's leave it to
Tingnan
the
natin kung
devotees.
gagawin pa nila yan bukas. Sige, babantayan natin mabuti.
Yes.
Sino yung mga yon last year?
Since it was an election year in the previous years, we see a lot of them. I'm not naming names. Some of them are actual devotees, so I'm not questioning the real devotees among them. But those who just showed this year, so let's be on guard about their motives.
Pakireview na lang yung video.
Oo, sige. Kaya babantayan natin bukas mabuti. At saka marami yun, 2016, di ba?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Professor Castro. Dr. Mike Asis.
Yeah, well, the challenge, of course, we appreciate the beauty of the devotion. It's really empathy, diba? Empathy, Pia, diba? That's what we learned from the Discovery Week. Compassion.
Discovery Weekend, by the way, that's for
Empathy,
couples seriously
compassion.
considering marriage. Sorry, I had to,
Yeah, exactly. So it's empathy, compassion. It's being able to identify, identify with the suffering of Jesus, who first identified with our human condition. Empathy, compassion.
Came into this world as
Yeah, exactly. And then that is the God that we all believe in. A God who was compassionate enough. He shared our human condition. Indeed, if you look at the Black Nazarene, it is the crucified Christ. No, it is beaten. It is scourged. It carries a heavy burden. The cross, it's black. Diba? It's burned. Diba? It's really all indications of suffering are all there. But as the parochial vicar pointed out, it's a Christ that was looking up. Okay, so it's a Christ that anticipates the victory of the resurrection. No? That the final word in this world is not death, it's not suffering, but if we collectively, no, collectively allow God's power to heal us, no, and move us and transform our lives, then we can move mountains and change ourselves, change our families, change our structures, change society. But the temptation in the devotion is to just let God work. No, we must realize
we must do
our
our
human
part.
cooperation.
Yes.
Okay, God is there to share His condition, but it's not content with just that. No, He challenges us, okay, to share, no, to share the load and the mission
Nasa
of
Diyos ang awa,
transforming.
nasa taong
Yeah,
gawa.
exactly. So that is something that sometimes is lost, no, in many of our devotions. Always remember yung tao ang gawa part. Always we must emphasize that. Now, more than ever, no, because we look at the Philippines and precisely we need to work together, okay, to change our society.
Okay, change our society, and we're
For
not
the
just talking
better.
about physical healing.
And not only physically, internally, and so morally and so on.
Moral, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, during guest tonight. I was about to say Professor Margareo. Our closet theologian. And closet cultural anthropologist. Thank you, Major. Thank you, Professor Renato Castro. And
Nestor Castro.
I'm sorry, Nestor. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Nestor Castro, and Dr. Mike Assis. Thank you very much again for being here. Last time you were here, we were talking about the conclave and Pope Francis.
The conclave.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Pia Hontiveros. This is News.Ph. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.